Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Travis Johnson for What's Really Good. It's Sunday, which means it's time for an episode of Hoodie Talk. Now, Hoodie Talk is when we touch on issues that strictly affect the hip hop community. You see, I got on my green hoodie. Now, I want you to start wearing your hoodies. I don't care whether you wear the ones with the strings, the one with the zippers. I don't care what colors you wear. But on Hoodie Sundays, we rocking hoodies. This week, we're going to discuss something that is hugely near and dear to the hip hop community: snitching. And here's the question, hip hop. Do snitches really get stitches? Let's find out what's really good. Thank everybody for tuning in. With all of the different cases going on right now in hip hop, just over the past couple of years, I wanted to take a deep dive into something that was very important to hip hop, or seems to be very important to hip hop fans, and definitely hip hop fans in the urban community. You know, I wanted to talk a little bit, I wanted to take a very deep dive into snitching, how it affects people, what it really means. And that's where I really wanted to start. What is snitching? I mean, at this point, we've heard so many different, the goalpost has been moved so many times, we've heard so many different explanations or definitions for what snitching may be or may not be. But I guess the best one, and I guess you can get in the comments and let me know if I'm right or wrong, but the best one that I've heard is very simple: telling on a co-defendant. Telling on a co-defendant. So snitching, from what I can gather, is when you get into a crime, so you and your partner, you and your people decide to do a crime, one of you gets caught. And then once you get caught, you start telling the plan. You start telling what the other person did, what I did, what this guy did, where we were, what made us think about it. So you start telling. But pay attention to what we said: telling on a co-defendant. So that means, from what I can gather, that means in order to be a snitch, you first got to be a criminal. And I want to define that because, as far as I can gather from what people are saying, you have civilians and then you have non-civilians. So civilians are people like you and me, our moms and dads, the bus driver, the train driver, the ordinary working 9-to-5 working person. We are civilians. So we don't have an obligation to follow by the rules of criminality because we're not criminals. But if you're a non-civilian, there's these rules that you got to follow by. So, and I'm hearing like one of the main things is snitching. One of the main things is snitching. So pretty much when you do a crime with somebody, you're not supposed to tell. You're not supposed to tell. Now, I asked a question at the top of the show, and I want to know, and I got a couple of emails that asked me to ask this question: do snitches really get stitches? Because this is something that we've heard about since, most of us have heard about since we were little. Do snitches really get stitches? And I wanted to take a dive into this. So let's get some information. Like, let's fact check this. I'm a fact checker. So what I'm going to look for is, do prosecution witnesses, because that's what they are. Like you'd have to be in the system, I guess, in order to be a snitch. Like you'd have to be caught by the police. So do prosecution witnesses get assaulted or killed? Brace yourself, folks. It is not common for most prosecution witnesses to be assaulted or killed. While witness intimidation and tampering are serious, actual violence against witnesses is rare. And then it goes on to say, wow, look at this. It actually goes on to say that the belief that snitches get snitches is actually kind of been fueled by movies and music and, the media, pretty much entertainment. So pretty much there is no facts that would lead any of us to believe that snitches actually get stitches. Okay? So that means that most people that get involved in crime nothing happens to them. Absolutely nothing.
Hold on to me. Hold on to me. I am right here for you. Hold on to me. Hold on to me. Hold on to me. I
And guess what? We've even got evidence of that. We've got evidence of that. So most of us, I'd say most of us who are over 35, over 40 years of age have heard of John Gotti. John Gotti was I guess the boss of the Gambino crime family during the 70s, during the 80s. He's probably if you take Al Capone out of the equation, he's probably one of the most famous gangsters, fictional, non-fictional, to ever be heard of. So John Gotti he's out of Brooklyn, he's out of Queens, New York, and he ran the Gambino crime family. And when John ran the Gambino crime family, they were in charge of all of the mafia families. So I'd say that guy was, if you're talking about criminality, if you're talking about criminals, he God rest his dead, but he was probably a big wig amongst that community. So let's look at what happened to John. For those of you that don't know, John was actually taken down. The government came after him once, twice, 3 times, and I believe it may have been on the 4th time. You can fact check that if you want to. But I think that 3rd or 4th time, he was actually taken down by Sammy the Bull Gravano. So they call Sammy the Bull Gravano one of the most famous snitches in the world because he took down John Gotti, who was one of the most famous, reputed mafia members of the world. So I don't follow Sammy the Bull Gravano, but I do, just as a person. I know he's got a YouTube channel. I know that he's all over. I know that he's walking around doing interviews. I don't see any stitches on his face. Okay, so that happened. There are folks, I'm a native New Yorker, so let's talk about it. There's plenty of folks that have told, Preacher's still locked up. If anybody knows about Preacher is still locked up. As far as I know, nobody, there was snitches in his case. None of them have received any stitches. I'll repeat that again. If somebody can fact check this on me, if somebody can fact check me and let me know, please let me know the long list of people that receive stitches for snitching on Preacher. As a matter of fact, if anybody watching right now can let me know a short list of anyone they know that receives stitches from snitching. So I wanted to start there, and I wanted to fact check that. Like, there is no evidence for us to believe that snitches get stitches. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's sort of jump into the whole aspect of snitching, because like I said, it is very near and dear for some reason to the hip hop community. I wish it wasn't. It's not a thing. It doesn't appear to be a thing in other communities. It doesn't appear to be a thing amongst other races outside of black people. Maybe some people like to call them African Americans. I call them black. But it's not a thing outside of black people. So you want me to prove it? Let's talk about it. Leonardo DiCaprio, he testified. I know some of you know, but guess what? If you don't know, he testified. He took the stance against rapper Pras of the group of the Fugees. That was earlier this year. Nobody talked about it. You know why nobody talked about it in the Hollywood community, in circles where people are of high esteem and make a lot of money? They didn't fucking care. It doesn't matter. It's not a thing. It is not a thing outside of the hip hop community and outside of it seems to be the black community. So what I'm trying to tell you is, when people in other communities tell, that's just what it is. It's just telling. Nobody looks at it as something bad. They're giving up the information. Somebody committed a crime and somebody's telling. Once they get caught. Usually once we get caught, we tell. Am I lying? Okay, I'm lying. So let's take it back to the earliest times of telling in everybody's life. Does anybody in the audience have a brother or sister, a cousin? Have you ever done anything in a household and got in trouble and moms came through and was like, you better fucking tell me exactly what happened? Did you hold out on mom or did you tell? As Smoke News says, I'll wait.
Who are you? Why are you doing it?
We'll have plenty of time for your deliverance to salvation. present yourself as honest, loyal, caring, but underneath, that's something to see. Leonard, I promise you to live your salvation. And I pray you don't go to hell. No!
Yeah, you fucking told. You fucking told. But it becomes something else once we become, not we, but once people are out on the streets and they're committing crimes, it becomes something else. And I want to sort of swing over, and when I think of situations, I try to put myself in the situation. I try to, when I'm looking at, I'm not the judge of what of right or wrong, but when I'm trying to look at whether what I'm doing is right or wrong, I try to put myself in the shoes of other people. So how about this? How about you put yourself in this example that I'm about to give, okay? So I'm in my 50s. I'll be 56 this year. So I'm sort of going to shoot this out to anybody over, let's say, 37, 40 years of age, right? Because you've probably got kids that are teens, that are the 20s, that are in their early 20s and things like that. So you are the example. And here's the question. And this is a real scenario. These are real scenarios that I'm giving here. Check this out. So your son or daughter is hanging out with their friends, right? Somehow they get into a situation where, and this shit really happens. So somehow your son or daughter get into a situation where there's a crime being committed. So maybe there's a scam going on. Maybe somebody's being robbed. Maybe somebody's being relieved of their money or their property. This shit happens. Maybe they decided that they're going to take some items from a store or something like that. These things happen. And your child, your good child, just like my good child, is there with his friends. You know, they ride around and they do stupid shit and they get involved in a lot of stupid situations that they did not have a chance to think about. And they're doing them because they're there. They want to be cool. And you know how that shit goes, man. We all been through shit like that. So now back to the crime. Whatever they were doing, they were robbing a person. They were taking some items from a store. Some violence came in, and as a result of that violence, somebody loses their life. Somebody loses their life. They push the cashier down. The cashier hits his head. He starts bleeding. He dies. This type of shit happens. Now, because your son or daughter was there and participated in the robbery, now they're saying that your son and daughter, this is not a robbery. This is not something that they get a tap on the hand for. Somebody has died. Somebody has died. And now they're looking to send people to prison for murder.
Oh my gosh, are you okay?
Yeah, my neck's just hurting.
It's okay. You'll be fine. I got a guy.
When you need a guy, you don't just want any guy. You want a guy that's been practicing law in the state of Maryland for over 25 years. A guy that knows the law, but also knows how to deal with insurance companies. A guy that will work hard for you. You need the law offices of Guy M. Craig. Guy Craig. He's your guy.
And now you get called down to the precinct. Or you get a phone call. But let's just say you get called down to the precinct. They give you, a lot of times they allow the parents to come down, and depending on where you, so now they give you an opportunity to speak to your son or daughter, your 17-year-old son. You're now speaking to your 17-year-old son who is now a suspect in a murder case. And the police have already let you know that, hey, guess what? We have reason to believe that your son or your daughter was there, probably did not have too much to do with the robbery, but they were there. But as a result of the robbery and somebody being murdered, everybody becomes responsible. So they've already sort of given you the ins and outs. You already know the play. You know what's going on already. And now you have an opportunity to speak to your son or daughter, your 17-year-old child, who you know is good, who you know is caught up in some fuckery, some bullshit. Are you gonna tell your son or your daughter to hold tight to this no snitching bullshit? Are you gonna tell your son or your daughter not to snitch? Or are you gonna tell your son and your daughter, hey, guess what? I know these are your friends. You best to get this fucking talking. I know that little motherfucker shy. I know that nigga right there gets you in a lot of shit. You better start talking and you better tell every fucking thing you know. Is that sort of more like your conversation is gonna go? So if that's more of how your conversation is gonna go with your child, then why do you sit in the comments of somebody else's video and call them a snitch? So you got to look at it like this. Every time, and I wanted to touch on something because for some reason I just thought of Young Thug and Gunna. I don't listen to these guys' music, but I do follow cases. So I know that Gunna was accused of snitching. I know that people are calling him a rat. Did he receive any stitches? And I'm not saying I want him to receive stitches, but what I'm saying is, why don't we stop the fuckery? Like, what is all this talk? What is all of the intoxication, the fascination of somebody telling? Your sister told on you when you were little. Your cousin told on you. Are you not talking to them anymore? Let's stop this stupid shit, man. So back to that question though. Are you gonna tell your own child not to snitch? So why are we riding other people about what they need to do? So every time you watch a case, a trial, or the police are interrogating somebody, why don't we act like that person has a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, a girlfriend, a child that has more worth and desire for them to be home with them than to save their fucking homeboy who came up with a plan and got them caught up in some fucking bullshit. Now, if your child was the person that came up with the plan, then let's reverse the scenario. So, do you expect another parent to tell their child not to give your 17-year-old that came up with this plan to hurt somebody and y'all just murdered somebody? Do you expect somebody else's parent to tell their child, you know what, son? You know I love you and we want you here. You got a little baby and everything, and forget all of that and keep it real. Keep it 100 to your dudes on the block. Go ahead and take that time, man. Go ahead and take that. You think one of these rappers that talks about snitching or no snitching, you think one of these rappers is gonna tell their son, go ahead and hold that time. Hey, I know we love you, but I need you to keep it real for the street. I'm a rapper. You think Jim Jones is gonna tell his son to hold on to some shit that his homeboys got him into? You think he's just gonna tell him to keep it a stack and go ahead and do the time? That just sounds ridiculous. That sounds ridiculous. And while we're talking about, getting in trouble, I see that a lot of people are getting in trouble for the things that they say nowadays, not necessarily the things that they're doing, but I see a lot of artists, I see a lot of entertainers, a lot of business people just getting in trouble for things that they say, right? If you got a brand, an image, a company, or anything that you want to protect, check out this message from BGF Creative.
Hi, I'm Talia with BGF Creative Agency. I meet a lot of people every day, but a lot of people don't know what I do. If you're an artist or a company, you need branding and management, period. At BGF Creative, we have a full media team that's here to personally assist you with everything from branding, management, marketing, promotion, everything you need to be successful in your journey. So give us a call today. We're here to keep you in the limelight for the good things and out of the limelight for your bad things.
To sum things up, I was watching a video earlier this morning, and it was the MREC It was a reaction to BGF-TV speaking to Bimmy about the allegations of him being a confidential informant and telling on Supreme. So MREC was actually interviewing Bimmy, and Bimmy was, just like an interview. It seemed to me like he was asking him to substantiate or make sense out of all of the allegations that have been, put on him, not only by Supreme, but by other people, from the streets. And I found it very interesting that Bimmy is taking a different road at this point. So when Zip the Drip first came with the information about Bimmy and he started pushing that whole narrative, Bimmy's whole thing, it seemed like to me, was denial. So I'm not a snitch, and this is why I'm not a snitch. But I heard something different. In the interview with MREC. I mean, you should go watch it. This shit is interesting, man. It's intriguing. And if you're a hip hop fan, if you're into street culture, this shit is big news right now. So if you haven't watched the video, go watch the video and see if you see the same things that I'm seeing. If you see the same things that I'm seeing, put them in the comments. Comment about it. As a matter of fact, if you don't see the same thing that I'm seeing, if you see nothing like that, put it in the comments. I still want to know about it. So it seems like Bimmy is starting to put a different spin on things. And he's saying, if I am a snitch, what does that got to do with you? What does that got to do with you? And that's the last part of what I wanted to say. Let's start with like Sammy the Bull Gravano. If Sammy the Bull Gravano told on John Gotti, which he said he did, and John Gotti said he did, what does that have to do with me? If Gunna told on YSL and Young Thug, what's that got to do with me? Unless I'm involved in these cases, and then it's got a lot to do with me. But if Bimmy told on Supreme, the fuck has that got to do with me or you? And you know what? This is when we get to what's really good. I'm going to tell you what's really good. None of that shit has anything to do with me and you. Right? So it's not that big. It's not that big of a thing. I'm not here to defend somebody that's snitching. I'm not here to defend somebody that's not snitching. I am here to say, I feel like it just blocks, it doesn't really serve a purpose, because as Bimmy said, it's not going to stop any of his money. He's going to move on through life. He's going to have his family. He's going to have whatever riches he's put together. He's going to have the same things that he had the day before the documentary came out and called him a confidential informant. And I'll tell you what's really good on top of that. If you are committing crimes right this minute, so if you're going to get up today and fucking commit a crime, then you should already expect that somebody's going to snitch on you. And that's what's really good. On the way out, like this video and check out this message from BGF-TV.
Let me out.
Prisoner 371113, you have been tried and found guilty by a jury of your peers. You have been sentenced to 7 years rehabilitation without the possibility of parole. Food and water will be supplied to you at the discretion of the citizens. The very citizens you chose to betray. Upon successfully completing your rehabilitation, you will be allowed to return to the city and to be reinstated as a citizen. You are what you choose to be.